Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. On today's show, I'm going to discuss how I believe Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice is a misunderstood classic. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Run with gun mob. Calm down. Stop those swear words. It's my opinion, right? If you think that James Gunn is peak Scorsese or Donner or whoever, whatever great director you're comparing him today, I can say that. It's my belief that Batman vs Superman is a misunderstood masterpiece. I can understand why certain men hate it. I do. I get it. I get that you didn't want Batman branding things. I get that you wanted Superman to be walking around going, "Hello, I'm Superman, I'm Superman." Oh my God, my cheeks hurt from smiling for a 3-hour fucking movie, right? And I love the smiley Superman. Christopher Reeve was my first Superman. I love all that. But this was an alternative take. Was it smart to have a mainstream film do this? I suppose it wasn't, and it should have been, the marketing should have been honest, that this was never a mainstream franchise of DC. I mean, Zack Snyder's not mainstream. Zack Snyder doesn't give a shit about the mainstream audience. He's pretty much told people that already. It's not like he pretends. He wasn't pretending, the studio were. They were pretending this film was for the mainstream audience, but it wasn't. But just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's bad. But why did this film get so much hatred? I get that some people didn't like it, but the divisive reaction, the discourse, the toxic discourse for this movie was more discourse than I've ever seen for a movie ever. This movie got more discourse than Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, one of my favourite films of all time. Gibson, one of my favourite directors. But he was accusing certain people, a certain community, of being responsible for Jesus Christ's crucifixion. And considering the industry he made this film in, that was a very, very risky decision. That was a very controversial film. So why wasn't the controversy as high as a film called Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice? What Mel Gibson did in that film, even in Braveheart, blaming the English for all the Scots' problems, right? That wasn't that controversial. Yeah, people were upset about both movies, but there was a vocal majority that hated Batman vs Superman. It got more hate than Passion of the Christ. More, and Braveheart and other more controversial films. Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice isn't even a controversial movie. It's not. It's not like it's putting down genders. It's not like it's talking about, it's talking about the human condition. It's talking about hatred. Bloody hell, they foreshadowed what happened at the Senate building with the Trump situation a few years later, right? I mean, it's not exactly the same thing, but come on, look what happened before and after that. I mean, the explosion in the Capitol building was amazing. It was shocking. It was devastating. And they were blaming Superman for it, right? And look at what happened at the Capitol building, right, in real life after the American presidential election. Everyone's blaming each other. So Snyder and Terrio foreshadowed that situation. Batman vs Superman is about illogical hatred, right? That's what it is, right? We spoke before about Man of Steel, where they say people hate what they don't understand. And that's true. Or is it in BVS? I can't remember. So this film is about hatred that doesn't make any sense. But why? Why was the discourse there? Why was the discourse so strong for BVS? I think there were certainly Marvel stands trying to, weigh down this movie, shoot down this movie. It's part of the competition. The DC fans versus the Marvel fans at the time, with the MCU being so big, and the DCEU attempting to challenge their dominance, which even Kevin Feige said he was worried about BVS. Not worried it was going to be bad. He was worried it was going to be successful. He worried so much that literally Captain America Civil War is a rip-off of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. How he knew what that film was trying to do, I don't know. But he did. So Feige was certainly worried about BVS, and he clearly believed that BVS was the right direction to go in. Feige was saying, I'm a bit concerned in staying too mainstream, being too safe at the time. And Captain America Civil War, at the end of the day, isn't a safe movie. Neither, and BVS is a deeper dive than Civil War. And Civil War was given rave reviews, and BVS was given crap reviews. They're literally the same fucking movie, right? You've got the whole thing with the Accords. You've got the whole thing where the government want to police the Avengers, right? Well, there's no Justice League in BVS, but there's a conversation by the senator from Kentucky, played by the brilliant, ever-present Holly Hunter. Snyder created her character because he always wanted to work with Holly Hunter. Who doesn't? The woman is sensational. She wants to police Superman. She doesn't want him taking unilateral decisions. She wants to decide who he saves and who he doesn't. And it's a very realistic take on what would happen in real life. And Captain America Civil War is exactly the same movie. Like Snyder introduces Wonder Woman in that movie, Feige and the Russos introduce Spider-Man. Not in the same way, right? In a different way, they're different characters, but there you go. And then we get the other characters via the CCTV footage. Again, critics and, some haters didn't like that. I didn't see the problem. It didn't take up much time, and it was a good way to introduce them for the next movie. So I didn't understand the hate for any of this. I suppose we should look at the hate, look at the things fans kind of looked at and hated, and I'll tell you if I think they're a problem. I suppose the biggest one is the Martha moment that got memed to bits. Did it get memed because the haters were looking for something to hate? It's the same thing with James Gunn's Superman. Vocal Snyder fans are going to be looking for something to mock, right? Like they do with other DC movies since Snyder's been removed from DC. We know that, right? That's an easy thing to say, right? So I think that haters of Snyder and haters of DC were looking for a moment to mock and meme. And they found it. A bit like the unhappy Affleck snippet that also memed on the internet. It was all very cruel. I hate, it was very difficult for me because I'm a devout DC fan. I love DC. I am biasedly in love with DC, and especially Superman. He's my character, as you all know. So it was a very hurtful time. So as I said the other day, no wonder Snyder fans are so fucking aggressive after the way we were treated during BVS, and we kept quiet, and in the end we rose up. We are exactly my analogy I spoke to you the other day. We are the bees in the hive while they're being bashed, but we don't do anything. Bashed and don't do anything. And in the end, we rose up. Quite right too. So if you lot didn't keep on bashing the beehives, the Snyderverse stands would never have become a vocal minority. But we did, and we fought back, and we won. Because at the end of the day, Snyder fans love Zack Snyder and his films and his vision. And that's okay. Just because you don't, it doesn't mean you get to attack our fans. If you're asking, if you keep on calling them a toxic fandom, let's say they are, some of them are, right? I don't believe that. I think the majority of Snyder fans are great, wonderful people. But there is a toxic minority like there is in all fandoms, right? You made them through your hate. So anyway, let's talk about the most talked about moment. The Martha moment, right? So I've called this film a misunderstood masterpiece. But nobody misunderstood BVS. Don't make that mistake. Everyone was trying to explain the Martha moment to these fucking MCU shills and these idiots. They knew what Snyder and Terrio were attempting to do with that scene. They weren't trying to say, ooh, our mums have got the same name. Let's be friends. Let's stop fighting. That would have been dumb, and that's not the fucking reason. And you know it. Because it's obvious why they stopped fighting. Superman's saying, you're letting them kill Martha. Martha was Batman's Bruce Wayne's mother, right? All he's hearing is the name Martha, and you're going to let them kill her, right? For all he knows, his mum could still be alive by some miracle, right? He's confused. He's just saying the name Martha. He doesn't know. He's flashing back to his mother's murder. So he's begging him, why are you saying that name? Why are you saying that name? And then Lois comes and says, it's his mother's name. Then he clocks in that someone's going to try and kill Superman's mother. Oh my God, he's just an ordinary bloke with a fucking mother. I'm tearing down a good fucking person. That's the point of the Martha moment. It's not memeable. It's not crap. It's actually a very fucking compelling moment that made me fucking cry. Makes me fucking cry every time I watch it. But they memed it. They memed it. They don't hate Batman versus Superman. They like to hate Batman versus Superman. This is from the same generation of people that call everything the bestest movie ever. Oh, Rotten Tomatoes don't like BVS. And we now know that, that Rotten Tomatoes is a corrupt site. And verified critics know exactly how to manipulate the scores by knowing exactly what to say in their reviews. We now know that studios have been corrupting Rotten Tomatoes for years. Some of the studios have shares in Rotten Tomatoes. You need to stop going on that fucking site. You need to stop going on IMDb, right? You've become a fucking generation. I must not make my own mind up about a film. I must go on a site that's named after a fruit. I must go there. Rotten Tomatoes, please tell me what to think about a film. Please, critics, you are better than me. You are more superior. Tell me what to fucking watch. That's what we've become. Fucking idiots. When I was a kid, when I was watching Indiana Jones, when I was in the cinema watching Last Crusade, I wasn't thinking about the box office. I wonder how well it's going to do. I just wanted to watch a great fucking movie. And I did. When I came out of the cinema, I wasn't looking out for box office reports. Everyone's fucking obsessed with the wrong things. Film, entertainment should be made for us. Then we talk about it, we enjoy it, or we hate it, whatever. But the box office, reviews, basically the way the world is now, we don't even need critics. In the old days, before the internet, it was good to read a few reviews. Honest, genuine reviews. Like people, like really good American critics, people like Barry Norman, who were honest, genuine critics and didn't have any affiliations. They all affiliated with the industry today. Most of the critics you get reviews from, verified critics, are from fucking California. And if those movies ain't fucking woke enough, they vote them fucking down. Just listen to Grace Randall's reviews. Oh, there wasn't enough representation in the fucking movie. Fuck off. Am I going to listen to you? Don't get me wrong, Grace is like Marmite. Sometimes she actually speaks a lot of sense and she does have good knowledge of film. But I can't listen to people when they start talking about representation and shit like that. That has no place in movies. I want everyone to have a fair shake. If you're a talented black man or black woman, you should have as much opportunities as everybody else, right? It doesn't matter who you identify as. If you're good enough, you should get the opportunities everybody else does. I agree with that, but I don't agree with check notes. I don't agree with ticking boxes. It's fucking stupid. And BVS and that Martha moment is a great moment, and it's a great way to stop the fight. Because imagine if you're doing that fight, and I can't remember in The Dark Knight Returns how they stopped fighting. I think they come to some agreement in the end, and that's what makes Superman stop being an agent of the status quo. But anyway, I think they fake Batman's death or something like that. Anyway, but you've got to think of a way to stop Batman and Superman fighting, because they can't just fight there forever, right? There has to be a way, you know. So, and I mean, look, I get when people are criticising it when Batman doesn't let Superman finish what he's saying. Bruce, you know, he's trying to reason with him, but Bruce won't be reasoned with. So, look, every film has flaws. I'm not saying that Batman versus Superman doesn't have flaws. Films are made by people, not artificial intelligence, not yet, thankfully, right? So they're going to have flaws. It's all right for films to be flawed, doesn't it? And a film having flaws doesn't make it a bad film. Jesus Christ, Superman the movie has flaws within it. You know, the power source that creates the fortress is green. It looks like kryptonite. I don't think that's a very good idea because that can be confusing to some people. But it's just a flaw. It's just a nitpick. It doesn't mean it's bad. There's one scene when Superman stops the water from flooding and you can see the houses are actually miniatures because Dick Donner was somewhere else and gave someone else the responsibility and they didn't do it properly. But you forgive the movie because they broke the mold making that movie. You know, one little indiscretion, one little mistake, you let them off because it's a great movie. But humans make mistakes and that's okay. So I'm not saying Snyder movies are not flawed. I was reading a really good, I forgot what it's called, really good account on X-Twitter. And he did a huge fucking thread about BVS. And it was so good, it was so detailed. But I did actually correct him on one thing. He claimed that David S. Goyer, because he wrote the first movie, Man of Steel, did one kind of version of the script, but then because of scheduling, he had to go and Chris Terrio had to come in. That's not what actually happened. Yes, David S. Goyer did one draft of the BVS script. They removed him. They removed him and they removed Nolan, even though they were both producers and Goyer had a writer's credit in the film. Doesn't mean shit. They just get paid. That's it, right? Nolan and Goyer weren't involved with that movie. They took, you know, and basically even Terrio, when he was being interviewed just before the Snyder Cut was released, said he didn't like that draft. He didn't name Goyer's name, but Goyer was removed and then Terrio was brought in. Because basically what happened with BVS, they removed Goyer and Nolan, then Snyder's and Terrio's vision kind of took shape. So it's interesting because Man of Steel is more, you know, Goyer's and Nolan's kind of take rather than more Snyder's take. Snyder's is the visual language in Man of Steel. So that's the truth. But all this information and facts they were giving us on this account on X-Twitter was fascinating and fantastic. But, you know, there was nefarious goings on with BVS. And you have to ask the question if Marvel Studios and Disney did have some bot accounts on Twitter at the time. Because even Feige publicly admitted it, that he was scared of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Because I've never seen a movie so hated before. I mean, BVS even had more hate than Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. I mean, I don't really get the hate for BVS. I suppose that's because I like it and I'm biased towards it. But I understand why people hate The Last Jedi. I was underwhelmed by the, you know, Last Jedi, right? And it was clear there was a lot of alt-left commentary in The Last Jedi. It's all there. I can understand why people were upset with that movie. I still think the hate went, but people got carried away, and it was the birth of the fandom menace YouTube people, right? You know, that's what made them. And I can understand why people hated The Last Jedi, but I don't understand why BVS gets the hate it does. As I said on the top of the show, I can understand why people don't like certain things, like the branding of Batman killing and the way Superman is, but you need Superman like that if you're telling that story. That's the story they wanted to tell, because Nolan and Goyer's and Terrio's and Snyder's take was always about putting Superman in the real world. Goya even made the point saying, you know, in the comics when Superman tells Lois he's from another planet, she goes, well, that's cool. And Goya always thought that was stupid. This was always a superhero universe that had grit, that had realism, that was about putting these characters in the real world. It's an interesting little experiment. I agree, if you want to make money, if you want to make mainstream fare, you don't do it that way. But it's clear that Nolan, Goya, Terrio and Snyder couldn't give a shit about the mainstream audience and how much money that Warner Brothers made off their movie. Because these are proper auteurs, these are proper people. They want to make a great movie. It's like the old days, basically, when people made movies, you know, obviously there was the movies that had to make money, of course, and be good movies and tell a great story at the same time. But also, there's your Dead Ringers and other movies of those types which weren't made to make money. They were just made to tell a story, to have a vision. And that's what Snyder, Nolan, Terrio and Goya are all about. Even the Dark Knight trilogy. You know, they didn't purposely make the Dark Knight movie so they can make over $1 billion. Of course they're making Batman. It's why WB owned Batman and DC, to make money off of its media. I get that. But Nolan didn't make a movie saying, oh, that'll please the mainstream audience. He made his movie. He made his commentary about Batman and the world we live in. People loved it. One of the best supervillains, not supervillains, best villains, best version of the Joker in that movie. It worked. But Nolan wasn't making that movie for huge box office. He was taking his shot. You know, Oppenheimer isn't made. You know, when he writes and directs a movie, he wants people to like it. But it's his voice. It's his movie. So these kind of people, like Snyder, like Nolan, are making movies because they've got something to say about the world they live in. And about, you know, the entertainment that they grew up with. The stories that they read that inspired them. And that's why George Lucas created Star Wars. You know, it's an amalgamation of all the stuff he grew up with, like the, you know, like the kind of continuing chapterized, you know, kind of movie serials in movie theatres in the 30s and things like that. So everyone does what, you know, takes inspiration from what they saw as young people. That's why I think it's stupid to say Snyder's ripping off Star Wars. He's inspired, you know, from Star Wars in Rebel Moon. I mean, like, he's blatantly got lightsabers, right? You don't call them lightsabers. They don't, I don't think they work like lightsabers, but they, you know, at the end of the day, I think the lightsaber thing is a little bit too on the nose for me. But he's just taking inspiration at the end of the day. Basically, Batman vs Superman is a deep dive about Batman and Superman in the modern day, in the modern era. And it's a very interesting piece. But it's also kind of really good to look at as well. Like when Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, you know, are fighting Doomsday, it's fucking awesome. No, he don't look like exactly like the Doomsday in the comics. And that's okay, because Zack always said, this isn't the Doomsday. This is a Doomsday that this mad geezer Lex Luthor created via using the DNA of another Kryptonian, General Zod, right? But he still looks brilliant. People trying to say that, you know, Doomsday is not good CGI. He's fucking outstanding CGI. Zack Snyder doesn't know how to do bad CGI. So this is the movie that everybody claims sunk the DCEU. And that's interesting. If you look at it from a side of negativity and the negative side of things and how everybody, not everybody, but half the audience hated it, you could say this broke the DCEU and they could have done just some fun, easy sequel to Man of Steel. But they didn't. This is history. This happened. So, you know, the Snyderverse is there to be judged, and now we will see what James Gunn does. If James Gunn can do better, if James Gunn's vision of these DC characters is what's needed right now, I don't know, you don't know what we're going to get, and even if we get anything, with Warner Brothers in such debt, their share prices, you know, There's a lot of teasing from James Gunn. We recently saw that S-Shield that has the same material as Snyder's S-Shield, which I find a bit curious and dubious considering he's also teasing Kingdom Come Superman. I'm still wouldn't be surprised if other actors who have played Superman before are not in that movie. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think that Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice is a misunderstood masterpiece. It really is a great movie. And it really does prove that line of dialogue from the first film, that people hate what they don't understand. People didn't want to understand Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice because of this. The marketing made it look like a movie which the main kind of crux of it is Batman and Superman fighting. And it wasn't. The crux of the movie is Luthor manipulating these titans against each other so he can distract them while his bigger plan comes into play. So I actually think Eisenberg is a brilliant Lex Luthor. I said it before. And even if you don't like his Lex, his actual acting, his performance is Shakespearean-like and amazing. And young actors should really study his performance in this movie. Some people will be laughing at me as I say it. I really mean what I say. So I think he's an excellent Lex Luthor. He strongly hates and despises Superman, as Lex does in the comics. So it's actually quite realistic, an accurate adaptation of who Lex Luthor is in the comics. He just doesn't look like Lex Luthor does in other media and in the comics. So I watched Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice before I saw the Ultimate Edition in cinemas, and I was very, very pleased with what I saw. I thought everyone would be pleased with this movie. I'm not shocked by many things in this divisive world we live in, but I was shocked at the level of hate Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice got. I think it was an overreaction. It was every day. It was insane. But it was a very interesting time. And then, of course, problems began with Justice League. Because while Batman vs Superman was released in theatres, Zack went on to start making the Snyder Cut, making his Justice League movie. And who would have guessed everything that happened? And WB were making some insane decisions because they saw the reaction of BVS and it scared them. To be honest with you, that reaction, if I was Warner Brothers, that reaction would have scared me as a business person. If I was Warner Brothers, if I was the CEO of that studio, I'd be shit scared. Shit, they hate this movie and he's making another one and he's not dialing back. Shit, we're fucked. I'd be scared as well. I love Zack Snyder. I love what he did with DC. But I would be scared as well. But by that time, I mean, in reality, if he didn't go straight into making that movie and they halted things after BVS, but they didn't, because their schedules were make one, make another, make another. They had a slate. They were going into Zack's vision. But I think because they were scared, they could have either halted Snyder from continuing to make Justice League, but they didn't do that. They were trying to interfere with his take, which was the wrong thing to do. So bad decisions were made. It was a mess. We got all those other crappy DCEU films without Zack Snyder, and now we're here with James Gunn in the worst time in entertainment history. The worst time in Hollywood history to be going on a new course with a new kind of franchise. I don't believe franchises work anymore. I think it's the time of the individual take rather than the cinematic universe, the connected universe. That's been done. It happened. It won't. I don't believe, I say this all the time, don't I? I don't believe this can work. I want to see a director making a Superman movie. I want to see a director making a Batman movie. I want to see a director making a Plastic Man movie that's nothing to do with the Batman movie that's just been made or the Superman movie. Do you get me? I just want to see individual random visions, right? That's what I want to see, but that's not what we're getting. So we're getting this. So I'm going to wait and see what Gunn is doing and judge it on its merits. I want to be clear, I don't have an agenda against James Gunn. I don't hate James Gunn. As I always say, he's a capable writer-director. But let me be clear, my feelings on James Gunn, which are not personal, but these are the feelings I have for New Hollywood in general. I don't trust James Gunn any more than I do anyone else from New Hollywood. Doesn't mean I hate him. Doesn't mean I think he's he's incapable of writing and directing a good Superman movie. I simply don't trust him. I don't trust Zaslav. I don't trust anyone in the industry today. All they want to do is make stuff and lure us into going to watch the movies. And once we've bought a ticket, it doesn't matter what we think afterwards, does it? The only thing they care about, I suppose, if we're too negative, we'll stop other people kind of being tricked into going to see the movie. My dream right now is to wait for Superman #1, The Vision from Siegel and Schuster, to be a public domain. And then somehow I want to get some people together, some talented young filmmakers and everyone, who can help me make a physical kind of effects Superman movie, a loyal take at Siegel and Schuster's vision of Superman, because that vision has never been adapted in live action. And I'm passionate about Siegel and Schuster's vision for Superman. I want to study it, I want to research it, and somehow I want to adapt it into a film. If I do that, and I at least make an amateur movie about that, even if it's never released or never bought from anyone, I can die happy. I'll see you again tomorrow.